God gave Noah plenty of time. And I feel like he's still given us a decent amount of time, but it's not inordinate. It's not infinite, right? Good evening, everybody. Although this may seem something that's, I guess, very basic and to be taken for granted, Dave and I feel that we've reached a point in time. It's very crucial or paramount for us really to take an in-depth, view of the Constitution and to really talk about it, decipher it, and stress the importance of it. Not only the eloquence of it and how it was put together by the founding fathers, which we're going to talk about as we get into it, which is just utterly brilliant, as well as inspired by God, we believe. But just paramount that we keep this at the forefront of how we run and manage our country. And we don't feel that it's really paramount and at the forefront anymore. If anything, it's forgotten, it's trampled on and kind of thrown in the back of the truck is how we sort of feel. I don't know if you can add to that, Dave, at all, but that's kind of how I feel.
All I would say is it's not required reading in school. Therefore, most people probably have not read the United States Constitution. They are not familiar with the Constitution, so they are not even aware that it's not being followed.
Good point.
Okay. It's the document that is the basis for our entire country. It is what guarantees us freedom. And so Dan and I felt that it was important to put this online for those people who actually are interested in why we are Americans. This is why we are Americans. This document right here. This is what sets us apart from the Chinese, the Russians, the French. All of those countries are wonderful countries. All of those people are wonderful people. But we were blessed with forefathers who were able to create this document. They are not perfect people. They made a lot of mistakes. We can get into those. But they left this document for us. They won this freedom for us. And it is up to us to continue fighting that we maintain it for our children and our grandchildren. And generations behind us and our current generations today are failing the grade miserably. And we are about to lose it forever, folks.
Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch. I don't think you're out in left field when you say that. It's getting precarious day by day, in my opinion, year by year. It's getting precarious by the moment. And I don't think you're out to lunch when you say that.
This is the Constitution of the United States. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within the Union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed 3/5 of all other persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct.
Mm-hmm.
The number of representatives shall not exceed one for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least one representative. And until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority therefore shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. Section 3. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election. They shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the second class at the expiration of the 4th year, and the third class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a President pro in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of the President of the United States. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. Section 4. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day.
As wonderful as this document is, and is beautifully written and orated and inspired in so many ways, when you look at the end of Section 2, it talks about the Indians, right?
Yeah, right there. And some people may say that's in their mind, that voids the Constitution in their mind.
3/5 of a person, right? 3/5 of all.
Right up there on the screen.
Yeah. So they were counted as 3/5 of a person. And we know who the person of comparison was at the time, right? It was a white man, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even a woman, I don't think.
No, definitely not. Women couldn't vote till what?
Well, you notice they don't say man, do they? They say persons.
Persons, yeah, all other persons. 3/5 of all other persons.
Well, I think were women counted in the census back then?
I don't know.
They couldn't vote, but were they counted in the census to count as representatives?
Well, I they
I,
the first the first census they did, I thought, was in 1804, in which the population was about 2.1 million, I believe. And to my understanding, it would have been men, women, and children they counted as part of the census, if that answers your question, I guess.
well, the whole point of the census
Yeah.
is to make sure that the proper number of representatives
Right. Based on
are
population,
allocated.
essentially. Yeah. Per state. Right.
That's
Right.
the main reason for a census.
Good point. So, and we want to clarify this because those not familiar with that, you make a good point, Dave. Again, the legislature is comprised of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Every state gets 2 senators, guys. So right now we have 50 states, hence 100 senators, or 2 senators per state. But it's different with the House of Representatives.
So larger states like California
Oh, absolutely.
will have a lot more representatives than smaller states like New Hampshire. Now, why does the Senate have 2 senators? Why does California have 2 and New Hampshire have 2? And that was clearly put in so that we're a republic. And it's not purely about who has the most votes or the most people. The other thing that has changed is the Senate. The senators used to be selected by the state legislatures, and that was changed as well to where it went to popular vote. And some people can debate whether that was a good decision or not.
I didn't realize that. Okay. Yeah.
Well, look, it says right here. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators chosen by the legislature
thereof.
And the other thing is anytime a change is made to the Constitution, you have to have an amendment to the Constitution. You can't just take a pencil and scratch it out. It's very difficult to change the Constitution.
There's basically 3 major, I guess, bodies that comprise our government, right? There's the legislature, there's the judicial branch, right? And there's the president, right?
Executive.
Or executive, that is. So right now we've just touched upon the legislature, which is comprised of the Senate and the House.
Yep.
So.
Which is section 1.
Mm-hmm.
All legislature powers in the Congress, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, a lot of people probably read up on the Constitution this year when Trump was voted on impeachment. You have a House of Representatives vote on it, but then the Senate has to vote 2/3 to convict. Okay, section 5 of Article 1. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner, and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. How many people know that? Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Neither house, during the session of Congress, shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the 2 houses shall be sitting. And what's interesting is they do publish online the voting records of these, also the attendance. And what I find amazing is how many of these politicians
are absent
like half the time, or
all the time.
An absurd number of times.
Yeah, it's huge.
And if you're not there to do the job for your constituents, they should be recalled. And the other thing that really upsets me is when people are in a certain office. There'll be a representative, there'll be a senator, whatever they are, and then they'll be campaigning for another office, while at the same time holding an existing office. So they're not even doing the job of their current office. As citizens, I thought that, there should be a requirement that, okay, you're a senator and you want to run for president, resign your office. You're a governor who wants to run for president, fine, resign your office.
Good point.
Because they're definitely not doing their duty for the people when they're out busy looking for another job.
It's a vacancy in effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
And nothing's getting done.
It's dereliction of duty.
Well, nothing's getting done. Exactly. They're still on the payroll though, aren't they?
That's right. You can rest be assured they're cashing their paychecks.
They're still getting benefits.
Yep.
Still probably building up pensions, still have health care. They're not going to cancel any of that while they're campaigning, are they?
Well, they have a guaranteed job there. And so if they lose their next election, well, they can always stay in their current role.
I'm sorry for the, facetious questions with the sarcastic tone.
Yeah. And the other thing is you have to wonder, off the top of my head, it would be interesting to know how many times the House has actually expelled a member. I can't recall of any member. I recall more impeachments than the House focusing on their own members.
100%. Yeah. In recent years.
Yeah. We've had 2 impeachments trials.
Bill Clinton, right?
Yep.
And who else?
Trump,
right? Did they do a trial for him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a trial? Okay.
Yeah. The House convicted the House convicted him.
Okay.
And the Senate did not. So he was not impeached.
Yeah.
Same thing with Clinton. The House convicted him, but the Senate did not.
Now, prior to that, Richard Nixon was impeached, right? And he stepped down, right?
No, he resigned before it got to that.
Or he resigned before it got to that point because he thought he was probably going to be toast?
No, the previous, we can look it up, but I'm pretty sure the last president to be impeached was Andrew Johnson.
Andrew Johnson?
Who was the guy who took over after Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Section 6, the senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same, and for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time. And no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office.
Doesn't this touch upon what you were just saying a couple of minutes ago?
I think so.
Yeah. So Section 6, it sounds like, is basically saying, hey, while you're in office, Dave, you're a representative in the House of Representatives, let's say for the state of Delaware. And
you can't hold both offices, but what they do is they resign, right? If you're a senator like Barack Obama or Kamala Harris, and you run for office and you now become president or vice president, then you resign your Senate seat.
But when do you resign? Don't you have to resign before? Or you play it safe? You wait till you get elected with the other thing.
Yeah, they wait till they're elected.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that shouldn't.
This says during the time of which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office. Now they're not appointed until January, right? So they resign for the end of the year and then they take the new oath. Section 7, all bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States, If he approve, he shall sign it. But if not, he shall return it, with his objections to that house in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal, and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that house shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other house, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that house, it shall become a law. But in all such cases, the votes of both houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each house respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the president within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevents its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives according to the rules and limitation prescribed in the case of a bill. So that's pretty clear. If it passes by one vote, it goes to the president's desk. If the president vetoes it, he can either sign it into law right then and there, or if it gets vetoed, it goes back to the Senate or the House.
Yeah.
And they review it. And if both the Senate and the House pass it with 2/3 of people saying yay, then it overrides the president's veto. Section 8, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imports, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures.
Can we stop right there for a second? To coin money.
Yep.
So this is saying who has the ability to create money?
Congress.
Congress. Anybody else?
Dan and Dave.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on now. Where's the Federal Reserve come into play with this? And I don't want to diatribe too much, but I'm just saying the coin money, regulate the value thereof and a foreign coin. I don't know what they mean and a foreign coin. And the fixed standard and weights and measures. So Congress has the ability to create money, but yet they've outsourced that since 1913 is what I understand. And there's no amendment saying that, right? Is there an amendment for the Fed? I don't think so.
No, it was a Federal Reserve Act passed in 1913.
Okay, so the Federal Reserve Act. So does that mean it started out as a bill?
Dude, we're going off course here. We can pull that one up next. But the bottom line is a law that Congress passes does not override the Constitution. Only an amendment to the Constitution can override the Constitution.
And this is why I'm asking these questions without diatribing too much. I'm just putting it out there. So my understanding is
Congress does not have any power unless it's specifically spelled out in the Constitution.
Exactly. So they're saying only Congress can coin money here. But yet we have somebody else where it's been outsourced that's coining our money. That's all I'm saying.
Who happens to be foreign entities.
Yeah. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. as the saying goes.
Yeah. How would you like the Rothschild Bank of England or wherever deciding United States monetary policy?
Well, that's essentially what's happening, right?
Or how would you like the Bank of China deciding that? Or a Russian bank?
Yeah, I mean, nothing against Russia, China, or anybody else. They're great cultures, great countries. The food, you know, whatever. It's all good. But to your point, no, I wouldn't like any of that. To be Mr. Obvious.
Yep. And this is why Andrew Jackson was so against a central bank. One of the reasons.
Yeah. Wasn't it Alexander Hamilton who pushed for
the first central bank?
Yeah.
First national bank.
Yeah. Yeah. He pushed for it and was defeated.
Yeah, and then he was killed.
Oh, really? Hamilton was killed?
Yeah. He was killed in a duel with Aaron Burr.
Oh, yeah, at Weehawken. Yeah, that's right.
But we weren't there. We weren't there. We don't know what happened.
Yeah.
For all you know, the whole purpose was to get him in a duel and then dispatch him.
Exactly.
And I know that this is how the world works on these levels.
Yeah.
It's quite simple.
Yeah.
Is politics are nasty, and sometimes
always have been.
It means that the easiest, you go back to Machiavelli, and the simplest way is just to kill somebody.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean,
no more resistance.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're good with it, with your morals and your ethics. Yeah, I mean, if somebody's a thorn in your butt and they're posing an imposition or a barrier to what you want to do and what your agenda is, yeah, just eliminate them. Game over.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. They'll even kill presidents.
Yeah, absolutely. We've killed what, 2 or 3 presidents? Or tried to?
We haven't killed anybody.
No, what I mean is in the United States, in the history of our country, we've shot at least 3 presidents, correct? That I can think of. Lincoln, Reagan, and Kennedy, right? Shot them. Two of the 3 died, right?
There's more than that who've been, but let's not go off on that tangent because it's going to go way off. So, because they've been basically, if you're talking about the National Bank, when Andrew Jackson basically supposedly called them a den of vipers and said, "I will rout you out," they then tried to assassinate him.
Okay, yeah, and like you said,
he beat off the guy with his cane.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Literally.
Well, you want a guy who was you want tough. I mean, you think people are tough today? The people today probably aren't even as tough as women and children back in 200 years ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no. And again, I don't want to diatribe too much, but the coin money, right? This is a big thing going on. You know, it just popped into my head. Why did it pop into my head, folks? Because we got 0% interest rates. We see the Fed, every other week now. They're almost like rock stars. 20, 30 years ago, no one even thought about the Fed, right? Nobody even knew who these...
Dan, I'll let you read the next sentence after the coin money. What's the next sentence, next paragraph say?
To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States.
Well, you could argue that the Fed is counterfeiting.
That's why I'm laughing now, because that you had me read it for a purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So what it says here, folks, is in plain English here that only Congress has the right to issue and coin money.
Now, why is that important?
Well, because he who controls the funds, in effect, controls every aspect of someone's life in a way, if you think about it.
Well, absolutely, because every part of our lives can be tied to dollars and cents. So if all of a sudden they start regulating the value thereof, the dollar, since 1913, the dollar has lost 99% of its value. That's how good a job the current Fed has done.
Yep. And most people aren't aware of that. I know my folks aren't. I tried to tell them that over the summer at a barbecue, and they just looked at me and literally like ridiculed me, literally ridiculed me. And we're like, oh, I don't think so. I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Well, all you have to do is look at the price of gold. The price of gold in 1920 or 1920, it was like 19, it was set at like, we'll just say $20.
Like $20, you could turn in a certificate for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Today it's approaching 2,000. That's 100 times. Tied directly to inflation.
Anybody over maybe 50 years old definitely knows that our money used to be backed by something of value, which was gold. I think people under 40 probably don't realize that the American paper used to be backed by something of real value, and that was gold. Now it's no longer backed by anything other than the trust and faith.
What these do is you'll notice that they state general statements, and then they allow the Congress to go in and write up the rules and regulations for each category. So we just covered the punishment of counterfeiting.
I mean, nobody talks about that. None of the candidates. Nobody talks
punishment for you. There's punishment for you if you walk into a store with a counterfeit bill, but God help you if you're the Fed going.
Exactly. You and I would be in prison quicker than you can bat your eyeball. The rest of the country, we seem as a whole to be fine with some third party, pimping out that work to a third party that creates our coinage.
Yeah, and this is and our money. I mean, think about it. Why do you go to work, people? Why do you invest? How do you determine how much the house is worth, or how much anything is worth, or what's fair value? It's all tied directly to the value of your money, because now that's tied directly to your time and your life. And so we just blindly give that power to these foreign entities to say, well, we're going to decide that your dollar's worth a penny. We should be having a constitutional Congress and demanding that these people do their jobs.
And if you think about it, maybe I'm a simpleton, Dave, but it's saying to me they subcontracted this work out.
Well, why would they do that, Dan?
Exactly. Why?
Well, I can think of Lord Rothschild, who said, I care not who the leader or the king is, as long as I'm able to control the money.
Real simple.
He who holds the gold, is that he who
makes the rules, or something to that effect.
Yeah, he who makes the rules. This clearly gives the people through the Congress the power to their money, which we just gave away to who knows who, because the Fed doesn't divulge who the owners of the Fed are. It is not a government agency. Okay.
No, it's not. And that word is
that it is, but it's not.
It's a total misnomer. The Federal Reserve Bank. It sounds official, doesn't it? And it sounds like it's part of the federal government, hence the word federal.
And this year they actually changed their website to .gov to try to conceal the fact that they are a private institution.
Yeah, because it was .com before, right?
Because think about it. How many people actually dig beyond the first page of Google? When you do a search, when you do a Google search or a search engine search, how many people actually go to the second page? They'll look up, what is the answer to this? Oh, the answer says this, when there may be 5 different answers on the page.
100%. Yeah.
So for the people who say, hey, let's for shits and giggles, can you see the search engine page?
I can.
Okay, let's type in, is the Federal Reserve, how do we say, a government aid? Look at that. Google read my mind. Oh, what a great answer. Look at Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not owned by anyone. It was created in 1913 by the Federal Reserve Act to serve as the nation's central bank. The Board of Governors in Washington, D.C. is an agency of the federal government and reports to and is directly accountable to Congress. Okay.
The Board of Governors, in other words, there's a governor for each one of the 13 banks, right?
Right.
is an agency, it says, of the federal government. So what
The
does
Board
that
of
mean?
Governors might be, but the Federal Reserve isn't. So they sit on an agency and act as advisors.
Well, here's what I'm getting at. The way this is written, they're making it sound like, and this is by design, they're making it sound like the Board of Governors are in DC and they're an agency of the federal government. Like hierarchically speaking, they fall under the government, Dave. So they're part of the government, right? It says it right there. They're an agency of the federal government. You see how it's worded? So if you read it quickly, right, like most people probably do, and don't step back and analyze it.
It's lawyer speak is what it is.
Yeah.
It's lawyer speak.
Yes. Yes.
And here's the other thing. I read probably about 20 years ago because I was curious about this. Well, maybe not 20 because it was after 9/11. So maybe 15 years ago. And I'm sure it's no longer on the Fed pages, but they actually said on there, I remember this perfectly clear, that the Fed collects 6% of every dollar created as a commission.
6 cents on the dollar for everyone created.
For everyone created.
6%.
And so when the debt was starting to go large then, I'm like, well, why wouldn't they want a large debt?
And why wouldn't they want to keep printing? The more they print.
Well, it reminded me of when I worked at Raytheon. You know, the defense contractors back then had cost plus contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And what a cost plus contract is who wouldn't want this type of contract? Is I go, hey, Dan, I need you to build this thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I will pay you all your costs plus 20% on top of all your costs. So what is your motivation to actually be efficient?
Well, put it this way. You're right. So if my cost is $100, it's going to be $100 at 20%, which is $20, $120 total contract. But if my costs are $1,000, wow, that's a much bigger number. So let's keep inflating the costs.
Hey, let's go out to the party. We'll bill it to the government.
Yeah, so much for crashing the schedule. We don't want to crash the schedule and get more efficient and actually get it done sooner.
Yep.
Or maybe we maybe we don't want to do that. We just want to keep adding to our cost basis. That's all.
Yep. So the Fed. Okay, now if any city wherever you are, if you go into Boston or New York or any of these cities, always go look at where the Federal Reserve Building is, and it's going to be some beautiful, grandiose building. Marble staircases and lions out front. They have their own police force. They have more money than they will ever spend.
Of course they do, because they create it.
Because they get X% of everything.
Well, yeah, well, you're right. Your answer is more precise. It's twofold. Now that you think about it, number one, they create the money, and because they create it, they get 6% of everything they create. So it stands to reason, basic math guys, third grade math will get us by here, or fifth grade math. Every dollar they create is 6 cents on the dollar. So the more dollars they make, the bigger that 6% grows over time.
Now, I've had debates with people over this, and they're like, they look up the Federal Reserve Act, and they're like, no, they're required to give any profits back to the Treasury. Any profits. Do you know how easy it is to cook books like Tesla does? Where I can show any number I want?
Yes,
I can write off any expense I want.
Yep.
Sorry, I spent it, just like the cost plus contracts.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say was, by them putting in that 6%, line item or rule or whatever you want to call it, I mean, they've in effect, given themselves the ultimate sweet deal in perpetuity. It's kind of like the fox watching the hen.
It's the best annuity you could ever have.
Yeah, you're right. It's in perpetuity. It's an annuity that is in perpetuity. Yeah.
a banker's wet dream.
Well,
Right?
it is. It's 6% for doing nothing. Just create another one. Just punch a computer key, print up more, baby. So
Yeah.
put it this way: over the last 4 months, let's do this. They've created $3 trillion, correct? 3 or 4 trillion the last 4 months. Let's say it's 4. So 6% they've made of 4 trillion in 4 months, not a year. In 4 months, a third of a year.
Yeah, and why do they need these grandiose buildings?
That's not the point. The point
well,
is,
it is the point. They don't even create the money. The Treasury does. So what the hell do they need all those buildings for?
the Treasury does?
Yeah, the Treasury prints the money.
Oh.
And most money created is digital.
Right.
Not even a dollar. It's not even printed dollars.
Right. Understood.
So what do you need? What do you need these elaborate, giant, beautiful, multi-million-dollar buildings?
Right. Let's not get overly rhetorical here because, I mean, you're right. You don't need it. But the point is because they can. That's the answer. Because they control.
If we're going to talk about rule of law, where laws are supposed to be equally applied to all citizens and all entities. Okay, if we're scrolling through this Constitution and all these laws and all these regulations are put in, well, I'd say the most important one, besides the guarantee of freedom, is how we're going to basically account for our money.
Yeah, yeah, because again, we agree that money controls everything, everything. Every aspect of an individual and even a society's and a country's life.
And today it's a joke. Today it's almost like it typifies the need for having a tyranny or centralized authority overruling everything. So now they have this jackass come out every quarter or every month and talk about today, and now they judge how he's like winking his eyes and how he coughs and how he says the word the.
Yeah. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Why is that man in charge of anything? He's not an elected official.
No. You know, how do they get around this?
Well, I think what they're going to say is that they're still in, because what did that thing say right here? It said it's an agency and it is directly accountable to Congress. That's how they get around it, because the Constitution says Congress shall regulate.
Okay, so they say they're accountable to Congress and Congress shall regulate. But my guess is the way things are going today, in the last umpteen years, and especially as we speak right this second, Congress is not, in my opinion, from what I can tell, they're not regulating anything. I mean, are they actually directing the Fed and telling them how much money they should be printing and where rates essentially should be and all that? No, it's the other way around. They're relying on the Fed to tell them this.
And how about this one? How about that Congress has not been allowed to audit our gold? Yeah,
since like 1955 or something like that, right?
So who's in control? If we can't even, if the congressmen can't even are shot down when they're trying to get that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Who's calling the shots?
But I'm Congress. No.
Yeah. So who's the invisible hand calling the shots on that one? Nobody seems to notice, because we're all so busy running around and thinking about stuff and worrying about shit that doesn't matter, as we've determined through another series.
Yep. Well, so listen, unfortunately, money does matter to a certain extent.
To a huge extent.
To quote the Bible, the love of money is the root of all evil.
Not money itself.
Right, not money itself.
2 Timothy.
So money is a necessary evil, really, and it's not evil, but money is necessary to achieve certain things we want in life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the very least, it's a sustainer. It gives you ultimate and basic survivability, AKA the ability to put food in your stomach, a shirt on your back, and a roof over your head.
When you go to put your money in a bank, and now you're getting 0% interest rate, and now your money can't buy.
It erodes over time.
You can't buy the same thing next year that you bought today. That is directly tied to your money.
Purchasing power over time goes down. So with 0% interest rates, folks, you're essentially, if you've got a savings and checking account, particularly savings, money market account, whatever, you're giving the bank basically your money for nothing. They in turn are going out in the marketplace, let's say even, with credit cards and giving loans. Heck, they're giving personal loans at 8%. So they're getting money for zero. They're giving personal loans for 8%. They're giving mortgages for 3.5%, 4%. Isn't that nice? And they're charging 20% APR on credit cards. I mean, what a deal.
This is something that's very important. It has shifted our economy and our culture to an economy that spends rather than saves.
100%. It's a debt-based economy.
Not just on personal consumption, but that's why businesses don't even hold money as reserves. Now they have to get bailed out because nobody values saving anymore, because you're not rewarded for saving now. You're rewarded for spending.
You're rewarded for spending. And the other thing it does, I would add, is, excuse me, with 0% interest rate, you're right. You're penalized for saving. And then what does that do in turn? It corrals you, the masses, right? And then it forces you, if you want to maintain any kind of purchasing power whatsoever, because we know it's at least 2 to 3% a year that your money decays over time. So then that in turn forces you to go out into the marketplace and seek, purchasing power, preservation, or better returns. And there's very few places to find that. One of them being the stock market, right?
Yeah, and it's been property. That's why homes that were worth $200,000 a few years ago are now worth $600,000. That is not that your house became more valuable.
It's true.
Because you didn't do anything to your house to make it more valuable.
Exactly.
It's called your money is becoming worthless.
The house that my parents bought in 1977 for $59,000, they can now sell for about $750,000. And yeah, they've done some work on it here and there and upgraded the kitchen, whatever. But is it really worth 15 times? The cost of materials and stuff, has all that gone up 15 times? Have wages gone up 15 times? The cost of labor? I don't think so. It's been stagnant since the 70s. So what's gone up? Or has the money devalued, to your point, Dave?
When you hold $100, it gets to the point. Everybody's heard of the Weimar Germany story when you needed a barrel full of money to buy a loaf of bread. And that's because when the inflation starts increasing, you can't hold on to your money. Okay? If you hold $100 and you earn $1 in interest, but the price of everything goes up $10, you just lost $9 in purchasing power.
Yeah.
So you're not going to hold your money.
So you got to literally spend it like this to get anything out of it. Get what you can at that point in time, because it's going up like this, real time almost.
So buy the gold, buy the silver, buy the ammunition, buy the canned goods, buy something that you're not going to get taxed on, I suppose. You buy a house, well, you're going to get taxed. And
we just think this is normal now. And we're in quantity.
Well, the thing is Congress has no problem spending lots of money on all these different things. But the most important thing that they could do is take care of the people with their money. And what do? Is they sell the control of that to these banks. They give it away. They sold us out.
Definitely sold us out. It seems to me, we all agree that creating and controlling the money supply is paramount. I mean, that is a vital major function, right? It's in the top 3 of everything. Yeah. That's a delinquency of duties, right? It doesn't jive with the intent of the Constitution, a centralized bank, the way I see it.
best analogy I can use, dude, is if God himself gives man and woman free choice, free will, then that's how, I mean, markets, the old term caveat emptor, right? I mean, markets should be free. And the only thing that should be taken out is fraud. That's what the only thing that should be regulated is fraud.
Yeah, ground rules to make sure everybody's playing fairly. But other than that, you compete vigorously against the same ground rules, and you don't allow the other player to cheat, right? Which is what does go on at this point. We pick winners and losers, and you've heard
that old story about the Rothschilds. I mean, that's how the really rich get ahead, folks. They cheat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's why there's monopoly powers, because just because you are so big, you can cheat. You can just, it's like being Shaquille O'Neal. You're so big, you can just lean on the other guy and you're going to defeat them. Yeah. And I know I'm really going off on a tangent, but what I'm really concerned about is the rise of Amazon now. They are doing everything. All I see are their vans everywhere now.
So do I.
And now they're getting into publishing. They're getting into freight.
Logistics.
They'll be doing the banking next, for crying out loud.
They got into IT a long time ago with cloud.
Oh yeah, they're AWS.
Yeah, everybody uses AWS now, and more. Everybody.
I'm very concerned about them because they can afford to lose money when they compete against people like the small mom and pops. You're never going to buy things. They can go to anybody and say, I'm Amazon, so you'll sell it to me for 10 cents lower than the next
this is what the price. They're going to, you beat me to it. I was going to say, they'll dictate the price. They'll go to you and say, look, ABC, this is the price I'm going to pay. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, this is the price I'm going to pay. Do you want my business or not?
Well, that's what Walmart does. It's what Home Depot does. It's what they all do. And Amazon definitely does it. There's nothing illegal, because I've said that to certain vendors as well, saying, I need a price of, say, $10.
Yeah.
If you can hit this price, then you've got the business. And if they couldn't do it, they didn't get the business. So, I mean, in the end, I'm giving that vendor a choice, right? You're trying to get into Walmart or trying to get into Amazon. Do you have a choice? You do, but
not really.
Some people would say you don't. There's
not really.
Some businesses can't operate unless they're on those platforms.